This is their bus. You guys haven't had this bus very long, have you? Okay, they've had it a few years. All right. Well, my name is Nick Ryan, and this is one of our bus captains from the Beavertown God's Missionary Church. His name is Jonathan Klein. And Jonathan, he might get into some of this. How many years have you been doing this, Jonathan?
Oh, this summer will be 7.
This will be 7 years this summer. Jonathan's been doing it. And when he first got started, of course, it was before I was at the Beavertown Church, but it was just kind of a rough go. And, he struggled with should he even keep doing it, about ready to give up. But God helped him, and he saw, started seeing people consistently coming. And one of the main things that made the difference for Jonathan was consistent calling and making those and building those relationships. But so we're just going to try to tell you a little bit about what we do on the bus, and in regards, I guess I'll share a few things, and then Jonathan will start here. But obviously, one of the important things in a bus ministry or a van ministry is the vehicle that you use. Whether that is a bus, we heard some in different, somebody said already in the session, might have been Brother Jeff Stratton. Sometimes a van works better, sometimes a bus works better. You can kind of weigh out those differences, but don't be scared to get a bus. Amen. And to get it, you can look at it and say, how could we ever fill that thing, or how are we going to pay for all of the maintenance and the fuel expense and different things? But God's going to help you with that, and dream big and allow God to answer some of those prayers. But important thing is to keep the bus in good for us. We mainly run buses. We do have a van that we use some too. But in Pennsylvania, we have to get our buses inspected 2 times a year. And so that happens when we have 3 buses that we're running. And so it seems like we're always inspecting a bus. But that's something that's important to abide by state guidelines. Some states you don't have inspections, so you can get away with certain things, but our buses have to be inspected. And you want to keep them in good running condition. You are transporting people's, prized possessions, their children around, and so you want to be hauling them on a vehicle that is, roadworthy and safe. So make sure that you're paying attention to those things, and it helps if you can. It helps if you can, hello to the Forces. Good to see them. It helps if you can find somebody in your church, maybe a mechanic, that would be interested in helping to care for the buses and maintaining them, and keeping up with different small things. If it's something big, you can find a good garage. I've found if you talk to them and tell them about your church and who you are, and say, I'd love for you to work on my bus. Would you be able to help us at all in regards to some of the labor expense? And most of the time, they'll sometimes say, sure, we'll do the labor for free, no cost, or maybe they'll cut their labor rate in half. Just talked to a guy this week because one of our buses is out of shop, and he was asking me if is the estimate look okay? And I said, hey, is there just any way you can maybe help a little with the labor? And he said, yes, we're going to do so. Good. So. But finding somebody who can work on your buses, keeping them clean is important. On the inside and on the inside, I feel like we don't do a good enough job, especially on the inside sometimes. But we do have somebody that comes by and at least once or twice a month washes the bus on the outside and sprays tire shine on the tires and tries to keep them in, looking good. Paint your bus or your van. Put your name all over it. If you noticed, you probably, all I had to say is go outside and get on the blue bus, and you know which one to get on because of the color of this bus, and they have their name displayed on it. That's important. Put your phone number on there. What we found is almost maybe even more so than that, it's just your website, beavertownchurch.com. And people can go there and find any kind of information that they need that will be beneficial to them. Making sure your bus is filled up with fuel and ready to go. The reason I say that is because we just ran out of fuel, and you never want to do that. You never want to do that, especially in the middle of winter. And so we enjoy getting to start a diesel bus by priming it, spending some time. But we did have an issue with our fuel gauge, and that has been fixed. But make sure you fill them up with fuel. That's very important. Before you should fill them with people, fill them up with fuel. All right, Brother Jonathan, you come ahead and share. And of course, we're going to allow for plenty of questions because this is very much, it can go different ways for each church. And you have to kind of work out that system. One thing I did want to say is find maybe 2 guys that would consistently commit to being the driver. I think that's important. We have one guy who drives every week. He drives the same route. I've even tried to say, hey, can I give you a break? But he said, no, this is my time to minister to people. And he takes it on the job, but every week he drives. And that relieves the bus driver of knowing, you don't have to worry about telling the driver, go here, go there. But he knows where the route is. He knows the kids' names. So that's great. We have one of our other routes. They switch on and off every other week. And so same type of consistency. The kids see that. That makes a big difference as well. All right.
Well, it's very good to be with you all here today. It's been a big blessing to be at Bus Convention, and that's an encouragement. And I just want to go back and work harder for Jesus and grow His kingdom. But just a few thoughts here in a bus ministry, actually practically doing a bus route is, I would say, one of the first and foremost things for me is having good relationships with the people and the families that I pick up. And that takes a lot of work. You've got to visit them. You've got to talk to them. You've got to know who they are, try and make friendships with them. Be available to talk, have their contact information, be tuned in to different needs they have if you can. If that be financially or just emotionally, and just be available, be a friend to them. It helps so much in problems. Like if you have problems with their kids on the bus and you've got to take discipline, or you've got to say, even just taking away candy from them, or maybe even say you can't ride next Sunday, or you can't, do this. It helps so much to have a good relationship with the parents, and to know that, so they know that you love them, you care about them. I would say that's first and foremost for me. Before I even get on the bus, I have to have good relationships with the families that I come in contact with, that we pick up their kids. The second thing would be, before I get on the bus, is I've got to have supplies. I've got to have some kind of snack, or some kind of a food item, a drink. We like to give them a drink. Have candy. Candy is the currency for kids. You can do so much with that, and we find that so useful. And a lot of times, so our church actually allows me to. There's a local country store in our area. It's owned by a family in our church, and they don't sell alcohol there. They don't sell cigarettes. They have a gas station, and I can buy gift cards to that store. And as I'm interacting with the families, if I hear of, they're having a really hard time this week, this happened, that their car broke down, it's just a quick way, it's $50, or it could be, it could be $20. It could be whatever. Just a way to say, hey, we love you. We care about you. Have those things on hand ahead of time so that you can just give that to them. Also food. We've had times where I've had kids come on our bus say, we haven't eaten in 2 days. Like, that's what they said. I don't know, but they're hungry. And, we just couldn't buy food. And we ran home, and obviously it was Sunday. So we just cleaned out, what we had, half a thing of milk and some cereal boxes and a couple cans of soup. But be prepared with that stuff so that you can just, if you hear about that need on a Sunday, you just go grab it, give it to them. Those have been some things that have been very, very helpful and to help just the bus ride before that, all the work that goes into that.
We're about to pick up our first.
Okay, we're here for our first rider, and I think
it's Timmy.
I think it's Timmy.
I think
yes,
so.
I think this is Timmy's stop. He at least said he was coming.
He's over here. We got to go get him. I didn't just text him.
So look, yeah, we could just text him. Yeah, just text him and come out.
Boy, I'm excited to be here today.
So here's Timmy. This is his first time riding the bus, right, Timmy?
Yeah, first time.
First time. Okay, Timmy. So this is your first time. So we're just gonna tell you we have 2 simple rules on the bus. All right. We have to be kind and we have to be safe.
Oh.
And so if you're doing things to your neighbor, you're hitting, Brother Jones here. You can't be doing that stuff. That's not kind.
Nice.
Or if you're hanging out the window, that is not safe. We can't be hanging out windows. And I found that's very helpful to keep rules very simple. And so that they can they remember that. You come up to them and say, hey, you're not being safe. You're not being kind. That's our rule on the bus. And to be able to just very simply tell them this is what we're doing, and they remember that, they retain it. And then as far as if they're not listening, there would be a measured response. So obviously, if it's their first time, they may forget, or they might forget they can't stand up. They can't stand up on the bus, so they can't walk around in the aisles. So you have to remind them. But if it would be something where they're belligerent or rebellious, like I'm not listening to you, that's something that you don't really have recourse for, and so you got to make a judgment call whether they can stay on the bus or you can pick them up. Like, because you have no recourse. You can't physically restrain kids, and you can't grab them, and it's a very, very dangerous thing to do when you're dealing with, neighborhood kids and picking up people on a bus. So you have to be very careful in that regard and have a measured response according to how they're acting. If it's just they're forgetting something, you would take candy away. Or say you're losing a prize privilege or something like that before. But if they're being rebellious, you would say you can't ride the bus. At least.
What about a cell phone? Taking a cell phone.
Yeah, you could do that definitely. So typically what I do is I don't let them play music on the bus.
Good.
So because it's so even beyond the music they're listening to, it's just so distracting, and they'll play it too loud, and so I don't mind if they have a phone as long as they're not doing things with it. Like if they're not looking at bad things or they're playing really loud music or anything like that. I've never had to do that, but you may have to do that. The thing would be is if they were like, I could ask for the phone. If they're not going to give it to me, then they would just have to not ride the bus, because I can't have them setting that example of rebellion where they could just get away with whatever they want.
Or ask their parent when you pick them up next time to keep their phone.
To keep the phone, yes. And that would be having a good relationship with the parent would be critical.
So the kid is belligerent on the way to church.
Yeah.
Church, and you take him straight home? Or?
That's what I do. That's what I do. And that's why I like to have my own vehicle there.
Yeah.
That way I don't have to have a bus driver take me and a helper, and I can just get a bus helper, ride with me. We're taking this kid home.
Yeah.
And then I can deal with it at the home. I can talk to the parents. I have as much time as I need to deal with that, get them home. And then, we're good to go. Say, I want, and I try to tell them, I want you to be on this bus. And I try and tell the parents, I want your kids on the bus,
Right.
But we have to be safe. We've got to be kind. We've got to be respectful. And I just can't have it if you're not going to listen. And it's work. I mean, people understand that. I think a lot of the parents already know their kid has behavioral problems, and they deal with the same thing. So they understand. Many of them they totally understand that. So
now, if we were in Snyder County, if I seen a housing development like that, that's a gold mine.
Yeah.
That's where you go and you knock on every single door. Now, Snyder County, there's not too many of those. So our stops are spread out. In fact, for the Kleins route is literally 2 back roads, Troxaville Road and Middle Road. That's the route he doesn't even, he kind of has a one town maybe 2 towns in it. But when I say towns, they're villages. Yeah, they're just small stuff. Beavertown, for instance, really only has a population of about 1,200 people, and that's one of the towns that's on another route. But no towns like that on Brother Klein's route. So sometimes his stops can look different. But if that was some of your stops and you are pressed for time, some things that I'd encourage you to do is have what we call runners. Guys on your bus that their job is just running to the next door, knocking on the door before the bus ever gets there. So when we first pulled in there, we might have dropped off 4 runners, and it's guys that are kind of running the opposite, the route backwards, and they're knocking on doors. And as a kid, that's what I did. I ran to those doors, and by the time the bus came, I might have 12 kids waiting with me, and then we'd hop on the bus, and the bus could keep moving. So those are some ways that you can speed things up, because a lot of times, you get to a house and everybody's still sleeping, and you gotta maybe help them get dressed or wait a little bit till they're ready. So look for those ways that you could maybe have, and that's another way to engage helpers, by bringing some teams along that you could say, hey, your job is to run ahead and get people ready. That was some of the most fun that I had as a teenager helping on the bus was because I got to run on a Sunday, and I'd run through the streets and whatever, getting kids ready. But discipline is important. You talked a little bit about that, but don't be afraid to discipline them. By doing so, you are showing them love, tough love, and they may not get it anywhere else. But by telling them, I'm sorry, you can't come back next week. And when all their friends can come and they can't, that's a big deal. They want to come, and sometimes, but still go knock on their door on the next Saturday and say, hey, I know you can't come tomorrow, but I want you to know I love you and I care about you. And if you'll promise me that you're going to change, I'll be here next week and we'll pick you up and you come back to church. And by that time,
I've never had a kid that I did that to. I said, you can't ride next Sunday. I've never had them not want to come back. Like, they want to come back. They want to be there. And so it's definitely.
I got a question for you. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. You mentioned something about there's sometimes a sleep. That leads me to 2 questions. Number 1, how much time do you wait and take to get them ready? And number 2, how much additional time, how much more earlier do you get around to do your route to allow for such things?
well, obviously you can't plan for it. I mean, you have no clue if they're gonna do it or not. But I mean, if you, sometimes they're like, just give me 5 minutes. Well, that
Right.
might be the most amount of time that you have, and so you could wait it out. But you also got to keep in time the rest of your route, who all you have to pick up, and you could sometimes call back to the church and say, hey, I've got somebody that's coming, but they're not ready. I can't wait for them because, well, if so, it's going to mess me up and I'll never even make it back on there. And that's one thing I would say. You got to find that sweet spot of time that you can leave to be back to church, not too early, not too late, but just right in there. If you're consistently 10 minutes late, you don't realize how bad that messes up the Sunday school teachers who are already 10 minutes into their lesson, and all of a sudden here comes 12 kids into their class. So that, do your best to be prompt and to be on time. So you just kind of, you learn how to gauge that, help them as much as you can. Some people, they call them. They'll try. There's somebody that's on the route, or I think Sister Line used to do this. She'd call on Sunday mornings. She'd call her whole bus route to get people up and to make sure they're getting ready for church. And then the bus would come around and pick them up. So, and then you also learn sometimes they're probably not ready. This one house is always running a little bit behind.
To add to that, if depending on how the route is structured, on my route, there are times that I can go. I'll say, hey, we'll come back through, and because my route's almost a circle, so I start from the church and then I do a big loop, and it's possible for me to even come back to that house on the way back to the church, and I may just be like right on time or just like a couple minutes late, but I'm still able to pick everybody up and get that person. So it just depends on how spread out your route is and all that. So yeah, definitely. As Brother Ryan was saying, being on time really helps the kids that you're picking up. Like they know when you're coming through. If you come through in the same 10-minute window every day, or every Sunday, they remember that, and they're going to be ready. They're going to be ready to wait for you the majority of the time. So, okay. All right, we're going to play a game really quick here. I'm going to have to put this down to do this. Okay, so if you need to fill time on a bus ride, you would play a game, and you got to make it something that's going to get their attention, something that they want. You got to have some kind of a prize, some kind of candy. Right. And so what we're going to do today is I've got a $5 bill here. Oh. And the winner of the game is going to get the $5 bill. Yay. So I need at least maybe 3 volunteers. So we'll do this, young fella right here. And do I have another 2 volunteers? You want to play the game? You want to play? And you want to play the game? Okay. All right. We got our 3 volunteers, and we're gonna play a little game right here. Okay. So what the game is gonna be is you're gonna take one of these pieces of candy, just like this, and you're gonna put it on your forehead like this. You're gonna put your forehead back. You gotta put it right here, and you've got to try and work without your hands. You've got to try and work it from your forehead down here to your mouth. And the first one that gets it in there gets the $5. All right, do you want to play that game? You want to try? He's not going to. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we'll still give you a piece of candy. Okay.
One thing you can do for fun in Indiana is just keep going round and round and round.
That's one way to do it. Okay, Camden, you're gonna try this. So you put your head back, it's like this, like you're looking up at the ceiling. All right, we're gonna set this right here on your head, like this. And then just tip your head forward a little bit, try and get it down to your mouth. There you go. He's getting it on his eye. Oh, he's getting closer. Like he's getting it on his cheekbone. It's almost there. Oh, he was so close. He was so close. He dropped it. We're gonna see what's there. Okay. All right. All right. Right on her nose. Oh, it just fell off there. All right, we'll go ahead. You can try it. Try it again. Put it on there. Oh. Try it again.
So as you're playing the game, obviously everybody tends to start watching what's happening and start picking who they want to win. And so people are cheering, people are really engaged into it because everybody is wanting, the prize that you have to offer. So a simple game like this really does cause everybody to get engaged. And even if it's only really 3 specific people that are actively doing it, everybody else is engaged because they're watching, because they want to see who's going to get the prize and hope that maybe next week they can do something else. So there's all kinds of things like that. One of our bus routes, they have a Nerf gun, and it shoots the sticky ones, and on the back windshield window they have a target that kids shoot at to see who gets closest and could do things. So you can come up with various types of games, especially sometimes your last stop, you might have a a 10-minute drive with everybody to get back to the church. And so get engaged with them, sing some songs together. You can work on a memory verse together. One thing that we actually don't do this at our church. We're hoping to get started, but it's a like a bus buck program, and it's all with like fake money, kind of like Monopoly money. But just for coming, they would get $1. For bringing their Bible, they would get 3 bus bucks. If they brought a visitor, they might get 10 bus bucks. And if they say their verse, they might get 5, things like that. And then they keep those and keep accumulating them until they get a certain amount of money. Then they can go buy something at the store with it, or say you get to 50 bus bucks and you take them to Burger King for that, or whatever it would be. It helps engage them to come. Because they're getting one for at least coming, or bringing visitors. So that's an active way to do it. And if you have that ability to do so and to implement some kind of program like that, that's a good retention program to keep people coming. So that's something good to do as well.
So I may have made it a little bit too difficult for their age bracket, but sometimes what I do is they're always getting a prize on the bus, and so for just being on the bus, good behavior and that kind of thing. So even if they don't win the game or make it, they're gonna as long as they're behaving well and doing what we say, what we need them to, they're gonna get a prize, and we go from there. And if they don't win the game, then we'll just say, well, we'll try again next time, or we change. If it's too hard for their age group, we'll change it and do a different one. So, I don't know.
Jonathan mentioned it already a little bit, but we do give our bus captains the ability to hand out a gift card to a family that's in need. And the reason that we did the first of all, if you just simply hand out money, you don't know what all that's going to go towards. It might go towards cigarettes. It might go towards alcohol, whatever it might be. And so we specifically, and one thing we like to do is to support people that come to our church that have a business. If you can support them, it's probably coming back to the church. So I try to use local businesses from our church as much as possible. So we have that grocery store that he mentioned, and we give them the option. So we picked that place strategically because they cannot buy any alcohol. They can't buy cigarettes, those types of things there. And it's also supporting the local church. When they go in there, they might see some of our church people and be able to interact with them. And so that has become a really neat thing that we've done. And you're ministering to people, you're meeting their need. And by meeting their need, they then in return are more open to hearing what else you have to say, and by knowing that you care about them. So meet the people where they're at, and meet that need if you can. Now, if we had time, we could keep on going and driving around, picking up various different people and talking about certain, the ones that are really shy and the ones that are bad. And where you put certain people on the bus. Sometimes you have 2 people that are always causing a fight, and so one sits up here, the other one sits back there, so that they don't get close to each other. And so those are some things. Now, you may have some questions, and then there's also some of you are doing this and probably a lot better than we even do. But any kind of questions that you might have.
List of songs.
What's our list of songs, Brother Jonathan? Unfortunately, because of me being a pastor, I don't get to ride the bus very often. During Vacation Bible School, but most of the time that's about it.
So we would sing just standard Sunday school songs. Jesus loves me. Teacher, Jesus loves me. This little light of mine. I actually had a bus mom that we went through VBS, and I called on her the Sunday after, or the Saturday after VBS, and I was talking to her, and she was saying the boys really love VBS, and they have been singing, building up the temple all day, and I was just able to talk to her about, what that temple is, and tell her, this is, and it just gave an opportunity, a door into that. So that's very important. Those songs, the Sunday school songs.
What are some of the songs that you sing on your buses?
What a mighty God we serve.
Good songs that they can,
not dead.
songs that they can engage in, get excited about, but don't take a lot to memorize and things like that. Any other questions? What are some things that you do on your route that maybe we didn't even talk about?
Something that I found helpful that we do on our bus. I was a school bus driver and used to writing kids up, and so I found something to be helpful. Kids are used to getting written up at school, and so when they misbehave, I had a form all made up. We would do write-ups on the bus, and it absolutely works. And you simply tell the kid, hey, you have any more issues, we're going to be having a write-up, or maybe you don't even need to warn them in that if they did something that, hey, I'm sorry, going to be a write-up, and it calms them down, and it calms the other kids down. And the parent had to sign it, and when we would give it to them, tell them what it was about, they had to sign it, return it to
And they were familiar with it already because
already.
that's the normal system. And most of the kids you're going to pick up are used to riding a bus because that's how they're getting to school. So, keep those types of things in mind. Anything else? Are you getting hot? Any other questions? Okay. Thank you for